Have you ever been in a situation where life throws you into the most painful room you thought you'd never step into again, only to find out that it's exactly where you were meant to be? This is the story of Emily, a woman with a voice like an angel and a heart made of glass, who found herself standing on a stage she never imagined she'd stand on again. Emily had always loved singing. It was more than just a passion. It was how she spoke to the world. Her voice had a way of reaching deep into people's souls, of telling stories words alone could never tell. And once upon a time, she had someone who truly understood that, her ex-husband, Daniel. They had met at a music conservatory. He was a pianist, talented and driven. She was a vocalist with dreams too big for a small town. It wasn't long before their shared love for music became something more. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on stage and off. When Daniel played, Emily sang. And when Emily sang, Daniel swore the world stopped turning. But love, no matter how poetic it begins, can take tragic turns. As their careers grew, so did the tension. Daniel began to crave more recognition. Emily, meanwhile, was being offered solo opportunities that outshone Daniel's. Resentment built silently. They stopped creating music together. Arguments replaced rehearsals. And eventually, silence replaced love. Their divorce was civil, at least on paper. They promised to stay friends, but in truth, they drifted apart completely. Emily moved away and focused on healing, through music, through therapy, and through time. She never stopped singing, but she did stop performing publicly. The stage that once felt like home now reminded her of everything she had lost. Years passed. Then, one day, out of nowhere, Emily received a message from a number she didn't recognize. "Hi, Emily. It's Daniel." She stared at the screen in disbelief. She hadn't heard his voice, let alone seen his name, in over 4 years. Her hands trembled as she opened the message. "I'm getting married in 2 weeks. And I know this is a strange request, but I was wondering if you'd sing at my wedding." Emily's first instinct was laughter. Bitter, confused laughter. Was this a joke? A cruel prank? But the message continued. "She loves your voice. She's always been a fan, even before we met. She says it would be the greatest gift if you could sing her favorite song at the ceremony." I didn't know how else to ask. Emily felt an overwhelming wave of emotion. Shock, anger, sadness, but also something else. Curiosity. Closure? 4 days, she debated whether to respond. Friends told her not to. "It's weird," they said. "It's emotional manipulation." Maybe it was. But something inside her couldn't let it go. Maybe this was her moment, to reclaim the stage that broke her. To stand not as someone's ex-wife, but as herself. She said yes. She didn't know why, but she said yes. And just like that, she was on a plane back to the city where everything had begun, and ended. The day of the wedding was beautiful. The sky was clear. The venue, a small outdoor garden, was filled with white flowers and the sound of soft piano music playing in the background. Emily hadn't seen Daniel yet. A woman she assumed was his fiancée greeted her warmly, eyes wide with admiration. "You don't know how much this means to me," she said. Emily smiled politely, her stomach in knots. The moment came. The wedding party took their places. Daniel walked out in a tailored suit, looking older, wiser, maybe even happier. His eyes met Emily's briefly. There was no tension, no hostility, just history. Then came her cue. Emily stepped forward, microphone in hand, and took a breath. The song was "The One That Got Away" by Katy Perry, a strange choice for a wedding, perhaps. But that's what the bride had asked for. And Emily sang. Her voice was pure, powerful, and trembling with emotion. Every note carried years of heartbreak, of growth, of love lost and strength found. Guests began to tear up. Even the bride dabbed her eyes. But Daniel just stood there frozen, a tear slowly tracing down his cheek. And that's when something happened. As Emily held the final note of the song, the entire garden fell into a stunned silence. The kind of silence that doesn't just come from stillness, but from awe, from deep, unspoken feeling. Even the birds seemed to quiet. And then, applause. Slow at first, hesitant, almost reverent. Then louder. The bride clapped with tears in her eyes. Emily bowed slightly, not knowing where to look. Her heart was pounding. Her throat felt tight, not from singing, but from holding back tears she hadn't known were there. She stepped down from the small platform, ready to disappear into the background. But Daniel walked forward. Everyone assumed he was approaching his bride. But no, he walked straight toward Emily. He stood in front of her, eyes wet, and whispered, "You didn't just sing that song, you lived it." Emily didn't respond. What could she say? Then Daniel took the mic. He turned toward the crowd, toward his guests, his bride, his new family, and said something no one expected. "I wasn't planning on saying this, but I need to." All eyes were on him. The bride's expression softened with curiosity. "I think everyone here deserves to know that the woman who just sang isn't just a voice you'll never forget. She's a part of who I am. She's the reason I ever believed in love in the first place. Years ago, Emily and I were married. It didn't work out. We were young. We were chasing different dreams. But if not for her, I wouldn't be the man I am today." There were gasps. Murmurs. Emily stood frozen. "And to my beautiful fiancée," Daniel continued, turning to his bride, "you already knew this. You told me that having her here would be healing for all of us. And you were right. You always are." He turned back to Emily, handing her a small folded piece of paper. "It's the last song we wrote together. I found it last month while going through some old boxes. I never had the courage to finish it without you. Maybe you could." The gesture left her speechless. She took the paper with shaking hands and stepped away as the ceremony resumed. But something inside her had shifted. Later, at the reception, something even more unexpected happened. The DJ asked if anyone wanted to perform something live, and the bride nudged Daniel. He smiled, walked to the piano, and sat down. He looked at Emily. It wasn't a question. It wasn't pressure. It was an invitation. Emily stood. Slowly. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was calm. She walked to the microphone, looked at Daniel, and nodded. And together, 4 years after their last performance, they played the unfinished song. It was raw. Imperfect. Not rehearsed. But it didn't matter. People stopped eating. Staff froze. Cameras were raised. Some cried openly. Because in that moment, it wasn't about a failed marriage. It wasn't even about a wedding. It was about two people who had loved, lost, and still managed to find peace through the one language they always spoke best, music. When they finished, Daniel stood and hugged her. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't a spark rekindled. It was something deeper. Acceptance. Forgiveness. The bride joined them, smiling warmly, and hugged Emily too. Later that night, as guests departed and stars filled the sky, someone asked Emily how she had managed to do it. "How did you find the strength to sing at your ex's wedding?" She smiled softly and said, "I didn't do it for him. I did it for me. For the part of me that needed to know I could survive heartbreak and still sing." The video of the performance went viral within days. Not because of drama or scandal, but because of its beauty and its humanity. And in the comments, people from around the world shared how the performance helped them heal from their own heartbreaks. One wrote, "Sometimes closure isn't a door slamming shut. Sometimes it's a song you finally finish." And Emily. She returned home, opened her notebook, and wrote a new song. One just for her. One filled with the kind of power that only comes from loving deeply and surviving it. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories don't end in love. They end in peace.